Hey guys, Eric Bray, Focus Fishing Guide Service, coming to the video fishing report for you for Table Rock. It is Tuesday, March the 17th. Hasn't rained in a day, so that's awesome. Been fishing pretty much every day. Fished Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Did take yesterday off, and then fished again today. Bite was getting really good, and things have slowed down since the front came through and we got all this cold rain. It has slowed the bite down. We're still catching them, but certainly not catching them as good as we were, say, a week ago. As far as our lake level is concerned, we're at 918.3, which puts us a little bit more than 3 feet above normal pool for this time of year. Got more water coming in, got more rain scheduled for tomorrow and Thursday, so I do expect the lake to probably get up around 920 before it's all said and done, before the Corps gets a chance to start draining it back down. Hopefully we'll get out of this rainy pattern before too much longer. Water temperature really hasn't moved much. It's 48 to 51, pretty much anywhere on the lake. You get a sunny day, good luck with that. If you get a sunny day, you will find some warmer water up the rivers. It's definitely dirtied up. The backs of a lot of the creeks have dirtied up. Actually, like Ants Creek, I was there Sunday. From about the ramp there at Ants Creek on back, it's pretty stained. You get to the very back and it's actually pretty muddy. James is starting to muddy up. Kings is muddied up. White River's or Long Creek's muddied up. So you definitely have some dirty water out there. I do want to feature a little part of the new Table Rock Fishing Intel website for you this week. I'm going to show you a little bit about the video section, the different videos that are on there right now, and the videos we'll be adding in the future. So we'll go ahead and show you that real quick. All right, guys, we're going to go through a little bit on the videos here real quick. We're TableRockFishingIntel.com. Just go to the video tab right there. Let that load up. And what you're going to see is you've got right now 4 pages of videos, and each page has about a dozen videos on it. So there's quite a few videos on there, but they are broken down where you can find them a lot easier. We've got weekly video fishing reports. There's information there, information on tournaments, pre-spawn, post-spawn fishing, stuff from our sponsors, and more fishing videos. Kind of gives you a breakdown, makes it a lot easier if you just want to look and see. Let's see what we've got on there for weekly video fishing reports. You can click on that, and that'll just bring you up the weekly fishing reports from myself and from Pete and from Phil Stone, and we'll have some others joining in on this as well. But a lot of videos, a lot of content for you guys to see on there. So once you're a member, once you're on the Pro membership, you get access to all these videos, and there's archives on here of 4 years of videos that I've done and some of the others that Pete and some of the other guys have done. Shows you a little bit about some of the videos we've got on there right now. I will tell you that we are planning on shooting a lot more videos here in the near future. I've brought another person on board who does a lot with video, a lot with website content, so that will help out a lot. We'll be adding a lot of content. Regardless of what's going on in the rest of the world, we're still going to be fishing. As long as they let us fish, we're going to fish, and we're going to give you guys all the information we can get you. So if you guys are coming down, say you're going to fish the lower end of the lake, bite's not bad at the lower end. I would definitely say it's probably not the best area of the lake, but it's definitely not bad. You can still catch them down there. Best bite, probably by far, is going to be on a swim bait down there. I've been throwing the Keitech Fat Impact 2.8 and the 3.3 on the new Jewel Gem Shad 2.0 head. Need that smaller head with that shorter hook to get the full movement out of the body of the swim bait. Most of those fish are coming on gravel. Wind does help that bite a little bit, so if you can find a windy, flat gravel bank, gravel point, mostly secondary points, but we are catching a few on the main lake as well. And the fish have been anywhere from about 10 to 12 foot deep. When it's cloudy, if it's sunny, they will back out a little bit, but wind seems to keep them in that 10 to 15 foot range. And we're basically just throwing it out, counting it down, getting it down around that 8 to 10 foot range, and then just reeling it in slow. We've been catching a lot of fish doing that. Catching fish on a stick bait down there as well. SPRO McStick, MegaBass Vision 110, both are working. Those fish are primarily coming off of secondary points. Flatter secondary points close to spawning pockets really have been key. And then we're starting to catch them a lot more on bottom bouncing baits. Jewel Pro Spider Jig, Jewel Pee Wee Football Jig, Ned Head, the Jewel Ned Head, Jewel Squirrel Head. All those baits are working. A tube with the new Jewel Tube Head on there. All those baits are working. Tube colors, green pumpkin. Pretty much colors on everything is going to be either green pumpkin, brown. The water's pretty clear down there, so you don't have to get crazy with colors. But most of those fish, again, secondary points close to spawning pockets. Most of them are in that 10 to 15 foot range most of the time. You get a windy day, you get a cloudy day, you might catch a few up a little bit shallower, say 8 to 10 foot deep, but for the most part I've been keeping the boat in around 20, throwing towards the point, or about a 45 towards the point and working it back, and most of my bites seem to be coming in that 10 to 15 foot range. Come to the mid-lake area where I am today. Had a tough day today. We didn't catch very many fish. This cold northeast wind pretty well shut them down. We did manage to scratch out a few, but not nearly as many as I'd like to. We caught them today on a swim bait. Again, the Fat Impact 2.8 was the one we were throwing today, but you can throw 2.8, 3.3, matched up with the Gem Shad 2.0 head. That seems to be best. Again, we're looking at gravel points, a little bit of gravel mixed with rock. Secondaries are better than the main lake points, that's for sure. And most of the fish today, they're out a little bit deeper. They're about 10 to 18 foot deep, but for the most part they've been in that 8 to about 15 foot deep is where I've been catching them. Throw it out, count it down, reel it in slow. Still catching them on a stick bait around here as well. A lot of them on the SPRO McStick. It seems like we're getting to that point in the season where the MegaBass starts to go away and the SPRO starts to take over as far as the bite. It's just got a different action, guys. It kind of darts a little bit harder. So catching a few more on the SPRO McStick than on the MegaBass, same sort of deal. Secondary points close to spawning pockets. A little bit of timber helps, but you don't want a lot of timber. Bottom bouncing baits are definitely working. Jewel Squirrel Head, Jewel Ned Head, Jewel Tube Head with a Bass Pro tube or whatever tube you like to throw, Jewel Pro Spider Jig, and the Jewel Pee Wee Football Jig. Both those jigs matched up with a speed craw seems to be better. Even with the bad weather or the cooler weather, we're catching more of the speed craw than we are with a beaver or something else on it. Again, these fish have been in that 8 to 15 foot range, seems to be key. Move a little bit shallower if you've got wind and cloud cover, a little bit deeper if it's sunny. So keep that in mind. There have been some fish caught on a rock crawler. Issue with the rock crawler you're going to run into is the amount of moss. We've got moss. It's continuing to grow. You can hit several banks and not have moss, and then hit several banks that have moss. It's just kind of a hit and miss thing, but most of those fish are coming on the 45-degree chunk rock banks, again, close to spawning pockets. Go up into the James. I was up the James on Sunday. A little bit tougher up the James than I thought it was going to be. It really seems like that influx of cold water from the James River and from the bigger creek arms up there has really slowed that bite down. It was definitely better late in the week last week. We caught a lot more fish up in the James River last week than we did this week. Bites that were working for us, got to have a jig tied on. Either a Jewel Pro Spider Jig or the Pee Wee Football Jig. Both of those are working. Gravel secondary points, 8 to 15 foot deep seems to be the key depth on that, just like it is anywhere else. Maybe a little bit shallower now that the water's dirtied up, especially if we get a warming trend like we're supposed to later in the week. I'd say we'll probably see these fish move shallower again. Probably going to want to go with a darker color. Black and blue, Missouri Craw, those sort of colors, Bass Wacker, those would be the colors I'd key on. Definitely make sure you're matching that up with a speed craw. Catching a few on a spinnerbait if you can find the warmer water. I know over the weekend a lot of guys were catching them in the Anglers in Action on a spinnerbait, pretty shallow, before this water cooled down or before we got all this cold rain. So keep that in mind. If we do get some warm rain or things warm up towards the end of the week, keep a spinnerbait tied on. Keep it, chucking, winding it on those steeper banks close to the spawning pockets. And then again with a rock crawler, not really doing so good with the Wiggle Ward or the Curve 55 because most of that shallower water is full of the moss, so we're catching a few on a rock crawler up there as well. Keep that in mind. 45-degree chunk rock close to spawning pockets. White River, same deal as we've got down here in the mid-lake. We're going to have a swim bait tied on. Swim bait really seems to be key right now. the Keitech Fat Impact 2.8 3.3 on a jewel Gem Shad 2.0 head. Again, getting on these gravel points, main lake and secondaries. Secondaries are really starting to turn on because these fish are starting to move up and getting ready to spawn. So hit those secondary points. 8 to 15 foot deep seems to be the depth. Keep the boat in about 20 to 25. Make a long cast, count it down, get it down to about 7 or 8 foot deep, and then just a slow, steady retrieve, maybe a couple of pops every once in a while. Seems to be drawing strikes. Ran up the White River a little bit today, up around Baxter. Did catch a few on a SPRO McStick. Had a couple of bites on a MegaBass as well. Most of those fish, again, secondary points, close to spawning pockets. Those fish were a little bit deeper, probably 10 to 15 foot deep, suspended at about 6 or 7 foot down. Did better if we had a little bit of timber versus if we didn't have any timber. So keep that in mind as well. Bottom bouncing baits, been working all weekend, should continue to work. Jewel Ned head with whatever type of Ned worm you want to put on it. Squirrel head, I've been doing better with a beaver on it than anything else. The jewel tube head I've been using the Bass Pro tender tube in green pumpkin and tipping the tails in orange. That seems to be working. And then either a jewel Pro Spider Jig, Okeechobee Blue, and Bass Wacker have been my best two colors, or the Pee-wee football jig in either touchdown or in Bass Wacker as well. Both those matched up with a speed craw really seems to be key. Getting a lot more bites with a speed craw versus using the beaver. Did talk to a buddy who caught a few on a rock crawler today up the White River. He was up a little bit further, was able to find 3 or 4 banks that were that didn't have any moss on them, so he did really well with a rock. I don't say really well. He caught 3 or 4 fish on a rock crawler and a couple of better blacks. So keep that in mind. If you're going to go up the White, have a rock crawler tied on, make a few casts, see if you can find some areas without moss on them on those secondary or on those chunk rock banks close to spawning pockets. Guys, we are halfway through March. Weather turned to crap on us again. Supposed to warm up later this week, so that should be good. But we're halfway through March, and I have not mentioned coronavirus once until now. Not worried about it. It's a bad deal, but hopefully it'll go away. Fishing's good. I'm going to continue to get better. We're getting into the peak fishing season. If you're coming down, you want to go fishing, you want to hire a guide, give me a call. It's Focus Fishing Guide Service. You can reach me at 417-860-4743 or hit my website, focusfishing.com, and either shoot me an email or book online. Either way, I get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, check out Table Rock Fishing Intel when you get a chance. We've got a lot of stuff on there. Going to be continuing to add stuff. We're going to fish regardless of what happens in the rest of the world. Going to keep you guys up to date even if you can't make it down here to the lake. But guys, thanks for watching the videos. Take a minute to subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the water.